Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to the Q Lounge Live. I am your host, Shady Groove, and this is the Truth for Freedom channel. It is just after 7 p.m. on the West Coast on Sunday night. Hope everyone out there is doing great and had an awesome weekend. Tonight we have special guest at IntheMatrixxx. Very, very, very great source of information through Twitter. This guy has mastered the art of tweeting. I'm trying to learn from him. He's been teaching me some stuff. Hopefully I'm getting better out there at doing But he's going to join us here in a few minutes. Thanks everybody for coming in and being with us here on Sunday night. And more winning. We did have a couple of Q drops today, and I think we're going to dig into those maybe later on in the show. Some very, very pertinent information about definitions and specifics about how we start to explain the differences in governments and what really is fascism and what really isn't fascism, and who are the people out there who are fighting capitalism and under the guise that they are fighting fascism. Meanwhile, they're running around in the streets with their faces covered and taking sticks to people and suppressing free speech. Very interesting. So I want to thank real quick all the guys out there that are going to help me in the YouTube chat tonight. If anyone is out there, you are new to Q, please feel free to ask questions. I would be happy to help you. These are some really great patriots from the Patriots United Discord. Great friends. We've all become such great friends over the last course of the last 9 months and met some just extraordinary people with some extraordinary talent. And I, for one, am blessed to know them. And so they're going to be sharing tonight, and they're going to be maybe grabbing up some questions. If you guys have some questions for us as we go through or whatever, feel free to post them up there, and we'll get started a little bit here. So first off, I did a show on Friday night, and I decided to play a clip from SNL in the show, and at the same time I decided I was going to read the Q drops that weren't talking so nicely about NBC. So I don't know if that turned out to be a great mix. So after about 30 minutes or so going off the air, they took my video down. It was off worldwide, they said, as a copyright complaint with a specific time frame of the clips that I played. So I moved the clip, I moved it over, and I removed the section that was in dispute, and then I re-uploaded it. And interestingly enough, it was uploaded for 30 minutes or an hour or so, and then they took it down again. And whenever it was on my channel, it showed blocked worldwide. I thought that was interesting. And the second time, it was completely different minute segment that they were complaining about. So I go back and review, and that was just me sitting there talking about the NBC related Q drops. Thought that was interesting. So I resubmitted it a second time or third time, and they seemed to be okay with it. So I was down for a little bit through the video. Sorry about all the confusion and kind of messed me up there a little bit, but it's all good. We're expecting some pushback. We're expecting interruption. We're expecting them to use whatever force that they can find to muster. We can see lots of people are really clamoring on the internet trying to learn identities of anons and the like, and right now anons are anons, but pretty soon I think all of us are going to feel a lot more comfortable talking specifically and more powerfully about what it is we know and believe, and what it is that we're all trying to share, because we're trying to share this together, and we want to bring a discussion to the masses. And that discussion, you need to be reserved a little bit, and you need to be conservative in what you bring forth to people, especially if you're speaking to people that are asking really good questions. Don't just throw the hammer at them. Take it easy if people are asking questions in here, you're not, you're having no sense of what this Q thing is or whatever, we can get you up to speed pretty quick, but you have to be open and you have to be willing to accept information in a format in which you are not used to consuming. This format is not TV running across the screen with some guy sitting there yelling at you and telling you what to think. You have to read documents, you have to research, you have to dig. And part of Q's brilliance is that aspect, teaching us all to come together, teaching us all to dig together, commune together, and be part of this experience underneath the surface of what it is that obviously they're being directed to tell you, to tell me, and to tell everybody else that they want you to think. So, and like I said, tonight we have a special guest in the Matrix. He's going to be joining me here. If you are not following at IntheMatrixxx on Twitter, you need to get over there pronto. And you need to be following this guy up here. That is IntheMatrixxx. Please go find him on Twitter. This is a guy that needs no introduction. Like I said at the beginning, he has put together an amazing thread here on what we are calling the Payseur group. This is a name that we've kind of gotten onto from the Fritz Springmeier book, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Q has made multiple references about P and the chair and who serves the chair, and specifically during the time that Q was on a little bit of a hiatus, him and his crew, they were digging deep on some of the old posts, and really found this, and it really does, it lines up with a lot, guys. This is House Payseur that we're going to be discussing tonight, and I don't think he really needs any introduction, but hey, Mr. Matrix, are you with us?
Hey, Shady. Yes, I'm here.
Thanks for joining me tonight, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Big fan of you. Big fan of everybody in that chat right there. Corticon in there. So Crop, Jojo, man, everybody. Red Dog, say hello to everybody. Great to be here. I appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate it more than you know. We appreciate the cooperation that we've been able to gain from your specific research, and this thread right here is something spectacular. I'll tell you, it really does go to the heart of, I think, what we're digging on here, and to get back into the more the more quote unquote esoteric or spiritual beliefs of these entities, you can kind of start to really see who they were, and that they weren't really that anonymous back then during the 1800s and such.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like we've been warned a couple of times. I know you're going to go through a couple of things to talk about that, but yeah, the research that we did actually happened when the 20-day hiatus from Q, Live, and a bunch of people, and we all got together and we just started asking questions, reread crumbs. So this is where we're at today, and we got some pretty interesting information.
Yeah, so this thread right here, you got started on this one on July 19th, and it's something that's come up kind of recent. If you guys out there, you guys follow Neon Revolt, he came into I think he came across our stuff here, and he posted this up here, where he kind of just pretty much gave everybody a shout out and said let's see, where can I start here? Some anons did though, and to them I think we owe a great debt, because it looks like they just actually figured out who P is. But Neon, didn't you say P was the Panay group many moons ago? Why, yes, astute reader, I did indeed say that, and I said it here. So he kind of goes through some where his ideas were before, but he did this amazing article, which was a dig in itself. Pretty stellar stuff that he's come across here. And there, right there, he gives a shout out to you and Lance Lee's and your guys' work and stuff. And so this is pretty interesting. But I'm going to maybe start off with your thread tonight a little bit, if I might.
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to thank Neon Revolt if he's listening out here tonight, because it's great to see that he kind of clamped onto this as well. That's why I feel it's important for us to kind of go through it tonight. So thank you, Neon. Man, I really appreciate it.
So I'm going to just kind of I'm just going to kind of we'll start at the top here. I'm going to read a little bit of the thread that you've posted, and then like right here. I'm going to start off on the Q drop that you put in you actually put in that picture for the front of this. I'm going to read that real quick. Why is Hussein traveling the globe and a whole line of dollar signs and two lines of account numbers? Where did the money come from? How do you destroy the most powerful country in the world? Direct attack or covert op by classified to infiltrate at the highest level to destroy from within? Think game. Who are the players? What are the rewards? America for sale? Patriots in full control. We will make more public. SA was strategic. We know. Do as we say or face consequences. These people are stupid. Now, so that's a really good one to stick up there, because that sort of leads us into a little bit more of this. As I scroll down here, it says, let's look at one of your first posts here. Let's look at post 714. Mess with the best, die like the rest. Killbox 2 highly classified clown ops exposed. 44 remaining wizards and warlocks. Save the best for last. P. Now, I believe this was this was the first post where P was mentioned.
Yeah, I believe so. There's a couple, but this is the one that actually got me. Save the best for last. P. I know we've always heard, save the best for last. Israel saved the best for last, all that. But this is the one that really got the mind going. So I talked with Avon Sales on Twitter. We kind of have a group together, and we just started digging, trying to find out what P could be. So this thread kind of goes through how we might have come up with the name Payseur for that. So this is the post that kind of, that one and the one you just read. If you look at the one you just read as well, that post, the part that's in the box is what we're kind of focused on today. We're focused on the players. We're seeing the rewards. We see that America's in control. But where did the money come from? This is how I started thinking, so we're looking at the Clintons and the Comeys and all the people that we want, in Gitmo, for lack of a better term. We've got all these indictments, and I'm sure they're all part of that. But think the game, players, rewards, America for sale. And then, I went back up and said, where did the money come from, and how do you destroy the most powerful country in the world? Do you do it by direct attack or a covert op by classified to infiltrate at the highest level to destroy from within? So that's where we really started looking at that.
Yeah, right. And that, that really does that really does set it off. And just to throw this out there to everybody, this goes back to, you know, we probably won't get into a lot of this, but we have found newspaper articles from the mid 1800s and previous about this specific stuff and about these specific bloodlines, and it was common knowledge 150 years ago. Even Abraham Lincoln, and a lot of the stuff that he has talked about the Secret Service and the idea that these guys started the intelligence agencies, and now the intelligence agencies are pretty much the only thing the mainstream media talks about. So it lines right up with the idea that they took a hold of our media a long time ago, bought up all the newspapers and owned all the companies that started them, and boom, here's the narrative, and they can run with it for as long as they want. I mean, look, they got away with the central bank, they got away with taking our gold, and they've kind of put us in out on the limb here on the edge of holding on to our freedom at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And and then so with all that, I mean, and it goes deep, like you said, Shady. It goes really deep. And I know we're just going to kind of do a quick high level view of it. And I kind of see in YouTube right now that people are saying, well, P is the Pope. Could P be the Pope? So that kind of brings me to the next post. If you want to go through that, let me know.
Sure, yeah, I'm getting ready to. It says Anon asks P equals Pope. Q answers Pope in the kill box will be having a terrible May. Those who backed him will be pushed into the light. Dark to light, truth, Q. And then underneath that, you show Q post 1413 with the picture of the owl, which connects us back to the symbology, the guardian of the Pope, personal with the next Q post.
That's right. So yeah, so if P was Pope, in my opinion, Q would have said, "Killbox P will be having a bad, terrible May." But Q didn't. Q said Pope spelled out in the kill box. Pope will be having a bad or a terrible May. Those who backed him will be pushed into the light. So that was the one that's like, okay, so there's people backing the Pope. Now, how does that happen? What does that mean? And then obviously you pointed to the owls. So the owls, we think owls are the bad people, right? Like the CIA, the people can see in the dark. So I started to dig on the owls and CIA and Payseur, and that brought us to the book that's published on the CIA website.
Right, and that book is this book, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier, which, just to let everybody out there know, all of a sudden within a pretty recent amount of time, the CIA is deciding to put the bloodlines of the Illuminati on their website for you to read.
Yes, absolutely, and it's quite intriguing. And I've known this book, a long time ago, but I never really thought that it would be in relation to what we're talking about today. But in fact, there's so many Q posts that we're not even talking about today that lead back into this grand scheme, if you will.
Yeah,
The
and
big
and
con, as Q post calls it. Excuse me.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%. And I'm in the same boat. I actually studied this book way back in the 90s, and it was very eye-opening to understand the connections to the music and every pretty much all the families, Astor, Bundy, da da da, each of the families connected to it. But he was, in the late 90s, he was actually kind of discredited by people. They were attacking him pretty hard. I think they actually may have put him in prison for a little while. So it was interesting for me whenever this started to come back up to start digging back into this, because it kind of came full circle to a different point in my life whenever it was almost too much information for me to absorb at that particular time.
Yeah, absolutely. And even this today, right? Illuminati, when you say Illuminati, you're like, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist." And it's interesting to come back to this as well, because we've all studied. A lot of us here are red pilled to this day, and all of our studies have brought us to the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the normal cast of characters that we've all studied. I've always felt that there's somebody bigger behind the scenes, because the bankers are out spread across the country or the world. The Rothschilds, they're putting up the central banks, and there's other families doing other things. Or they're worker bees. I've always felt that there is some one something behind them, right? So that's where I came to this. And what I really want to point out too about the book that's on the CIA website, there's a post. It happens to be my favorite post. It's February 12th post, Q749. And I think it's time to kind of talk about this one really quick. It's the Matrix post. Basically, it says coincidence. The Matrix movie grew people as a crop, used for energy and controlled their minds. Sound familiar? Wonder where they derived that idea from. Now comes the conspiracy label. The deeper we go, the more unrealistic it becomes. The end won't be for everyone. That choice to know will be yours. So when I was looking into this book, we were looking at, the first introduction page on the CIA website book, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati. In mind, keeping that post in mind, page 1 on the introduction, it basically says, the truth, on the other hand, doesn't always tickle the ear or warm the ego of its listeners. The light of truth in this book will be too bright for some people who will want to return to the safe comfort of their darkness. I am not a conspiracy theorist. So that basically relates back to the Q post that I just read you. And if I read you the one more time from bottom to top, it'll make sense. So it says, that choice to know will be yours. The end won't be for everyone. Deeper we go, the more unrealistic it all becomes. Now comes the conspiracy label. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. That's on the first page, paragraph 2, last 2 sentences.
And that was post what number again?
It was the February 12th Q post.
Right, February 12th. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I just scrolled from it. Hang on one second.
I saw a couple of people out there saying the volume was too low. I made a little adjustment. Does that help?
All right, microphone check. Is that good, guys?
You're coming through good to me, and it looks like I'm at the top here, so hopefully I got it up a little. So
Okay.
with that, you want me to read this little post here about the Payseur, this top one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about the owls, and the Payseurs, and so yeah, this is the one about LC Payseur.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read that. Yes, absolutely.
LC Payseur, one of the most secret and most powerful families in North America, has been the Payseurs. They have been so powerful that they could hide their wealth and power and use other satanic families as proxies. The Payseurs are part of the 13th, it says 3th, top Illuminati families. The first Payseur to come to America was the former crown prince of France, Daniel Payseur, 1785 to 1860. He came over about 1805 to the U.S. and married Susan Kaiser around 1814. They had 2 boys, Adam and Jonas married Harrietta Smith, and they had Louis Case Payseur from 1850 to 1939. It was this Louis Cass Payseur who hired the Rothschild bloodlines of the Springs to run a number of the Payseur companies. The Payseurs were one of the original big railroad families, along with Isaac Crome, William H. Beatty. Isaac Crome's wife was a sister of Beatty's, so the reader can see how all these elite bloodlines intertwined. Remember that the L.C. Payseur hired Leroy Springs to operate a host of his companies. Leroy Springs' father was A.A. Springs, and A.A. Springs was the secret father of Abraham Lincoln. So just to give everybody a little bit of an understanding here, like a lot of these names that we're going to start to go through as we dig deeper into this are very familiar names. The Payseurs specifically, maybe not familiar names, but this organization through Western Union and the railroads were able to hide all their wealth and make other families seem like they were the ones kind of with the attention on during this time, whenever quite a few people knew what was going on with these people.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that here, and that's very important. Again, the Rothschilds hired, the Payseurs hired the Rothschild bloodline, the Springs. So they hired them, and that's the piece that really got to me. And then there's a couple more coincidences that happened too. when we kept looking, we kind of found some things. And remember, this has been some hard research, because we'll get to that, but they're hiding, right? So we found 1/3 assets of the Payseurs. And when we looked at the assets, we're looking at pretty much everything, all the railroad companies. If you look at all the Chattanooga, the Seaboard Air and Railway Land Company, Royal Portland Railroad Company, H&B Railroad Company, South Carolina. They owned all of the rail companies. Pennsylvania Railroad, Mexican Central Railroad, New York Railroad, Mexican Railway, Mobile and Ohio Railroad. And this is important to note, because they also owned all the banks, the Bank of Lancaster in South Carolina, First Bank and Trust, Bank of New York, National Bank Exchange Chester. So that's all very interesting. The gold mines, Chase Bank, Riggs Bank, Bank of New York, Painesville Bank. It's the cotton mills. They owned all of those. Singer Manufacturing Company, Standard Oil, Duke Power, General Electric, Potomac Energy, Southern Power Company, Reed Gold Mine, all of this stuff. Motor companies, American Motor Companies, GMC, Cadillac, Carolina Cadillac Company, and Studebaker, RJ Reynolds Tobacco, Elgin National Watch Company, Illinois Springfield Watch Company, Waterbury Watch Company. I mean, so here we go. We're going through all of these assets. Borden, Eagle Brand Milk Company, Heinz Pickle Company. What?
Boom.
That's what started getting me. And we'll get back there in a second. Colt Firearms, the fertilizer companies, Western Union, you name it, they own it. America for sale. But back to Heinz Pickle Company.
Yeah, I'm actually right here on this next post here about the pickle company, and with the Q drop on May 13th, the 1359 drop and stuff. If you want to talk about that a second, or I could read it either way.
Yeah, sure. This one is really interesting because I have more on it as well. As we know, we pretty much have figured out that the Payseurs are of Merovingian bloodline, and they're French, and come from Queen Antoinette. So keep that in mind when you read this post. It says "en garde." En garde is part of fencing, right? It's a French word.
And notice,
And we
folks,
await your answer. Right?
notice, folks, he's going to read this from the bottom up. So just so you can see.
Yeah, that's why up is down, right is left. That we read things top to bottom and bottom to top to make sense of things, and to get different clues that the Q team might drop to us. So en garde, that's French for in fencing, to be on guard. I said that when I was a kid. We await your answer in Kill Box 48. Well, there was 48 bloodlines, families that came over from France after Queen Antoinette was beheaded. Will the U.S. expose the names of the corrupt officials plus con deal? Pickle. Will Iran expose the names of corrupt officials? Pickle. Who do the elected leaders report to? Who controls the elected leaders? Will the U.S. be forced to ban and declare certain EU countries off limits? Why is Kerry in the EU? Will the EU resort to protecting the deal so money flow remains in place? Fake news. What about preventing Iran nuclear capabilities? What about the safety and security of the world? Coincidence? What was their purpose? Who recently visited the White House? And then we go up to the Iran Daily News talking about Total SA, which is a really big French multinational oil company. But we'll leave that for now and just go back. Who recently visited the White House? Really quick. Who was that? Shady, do you remember?
I think that was referring to Macron, right?
That's correct. Macron. Imagine that, right? So Macron visited the White House on, I believe it was in April 2018.
Yeah, it would have been about 3 weeks before this post was made or something, I think.
Yeah, just recently. So it was just after.
Or just after. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I found that very, very interesting, talking about pickle. So there's another one really quick. Shortly after that, on May 16th, and Anon said, I know that too. Pickle, PICL, means Presidential Intelligence Checklist. Pickle equals Heinz and John Kerry, JK. Pickle could just be a hard decision like it normally is. Just an odd theory I had. Q said, think pickle factory. So 1/3 of the Payseur assets is Heinz Pickles. So that's where I kind of came up with that. Another coincidence, I'm sure, right? Just a coincidence.
Oh yeah, we've gotten used to not believing in those things anymore.
So some people say pickle equals CIA, and Leslie, you're absolutely right, because the CIA is protecting these bloodlines.
It's the CIA's responsibility. You know, you guys understand now. Look what happened after this whole John Brennan thing. This guy's on TV claiming that he has a right to a security clearance, and then 60 agents, CIA people from the agency came out in support of John Brennan, saying that the president should not have taken a security clearance from a person who's literally going on TV and he's literally calling the president treasonous and pretending like he has some secret back channel information that the president is being investigated or doing something wrong, when, as far as, if most of the people out there who are following Q, it's pretty obvious to us that the president is not even close to the target of this Mueller investigation. So the basic point being there that your intelligence agencies are in charge of protecting the narrative and protecting the secrets and protecting this information from coming out.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what we're seeing, and there is an article where the CIA is called the Pickle Factory, but it's very intriguing to note that they very well could be protecting the Pickle Factory, aka the Payseurs.
Yeah, we need to get those. It's like whack-a-mole. If you start standing up and defending John Brennan's security clearance, they should jerk yours right out from underneath you.
Absolutely. If you and I leave a company, they're going to take away our computer access.
They're not going to let me.
Make sense, right?
Yeah, they're not going to let me have a card to get back into the building anymore.
Exactly, right? I mean, what are we thinking? We sign NDAs all the time. You leave a company, you abide by the NDA, and you get your clearance or security removed. It's just not rocket science, guys.
And also, for everyone out there, please realize that the intensity at which Kerry corresponded during this whole Iran deal thing, and a lot of what we've learned with Q, kind of pointing, using his laser pointer, pointing us in the right direction, is that under the Obama administration, during the whole lead up to the Iran deal, Kerry was instrumental in going in there and basically telling everybody that, hey, we're going to keep Iran on this, whole CIA sort of download type thing here. You guys can go ahead and start bringing companies in, building your businesses up, allow trade under the guise of these sanctions, sort of an inside deal. And then once we get these $1 billion in cash over here, or however much it was, then we're going to disperse it to you guys. And then Iran is going to be a huge consumer of Europeans' goods. And the president kind of blew that all out of the water whenever he went overseas and pulled the rug out from underneath all that and said, no, if you want to do trade, you can do trade with us, but you're not. They started to cut off the spigot for that flow.
That's right, and that's exactly what this post says. Who do the elected leaders report to? Who controls the elected leaders? Will the U.S. be forced to ban and declare certain EU companies off limits? Why is Kerry in the EU? Will the EU resort to protecting the deal so the money flow remains in place? Fake news. What about preventing Iran nuclear capabilities? Because that's not what it was about, folks. What about the safety and security of the world? That's not what it was about, folks. Coincidence? It was about keeping their money flow going. That's what it was about, and it was the bloodline families. Kerry is a Forbes, and he's traveling the world, and Obama is not talking to other governments. They're talking to the big bloodline heads of the families to make sure that they can keep their con deal going. And we await your answer, 48.
Yeah,
on guard.
That's right, man. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing, and this is why the Q dissemination project has been so crucial to give us the whole future proofs past reality, to show, hey, why is the president going to the location, the former president Obama going to the location where the current president Trump is traveling to, and then after Trump leaves, all of a sudden here goes Obama right in there behind him, trying to sort of hem up the loose seams, if you will.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely what he was doing.
So we step down here, and you can see, guys, this is a little montage that put together by Avon Sales. If you want to, you should go check her out on Twitter. She's a monster out there. Secret descendants of the French monarchy, Daniel Payseur was Queen Marie Antoinette's son. Daniel Payseur, Crown Prince Louis, or AKA Louis the 17th of France, was smuggled out of France to North Carolina in the U.S. after his mother was executed. And realize, guys, that a lot of the central banking structure think about that for just a moment. Pull back out of it just a second and think about the structure, and you try to get your mind around. Oh well, how are these people? How is it this shadowy entities can operate? These people were not shadowy entities in at the turn of the century, or even before. These bloodlines were known. Everyone in America pretty much knew that they were trying to set up a central bank. That's kind of the reason the operations against Lincoln. We know that the operations against JFK, obviously, and George H.W. Bush's role that he played in all of that. Well, George H.W. Bush played a major role in operating the central banks out of Lancaster, eventually turned to Nations Bank. And the banking system that you see today, when you go out in your car and you go to the bank, those banking structures that you see today are these people. And that entity did not go away because newspapers stopped printing it. They knew that wouldn't be the case, so they bought up all the newspapers, they bought up all the media, so they could control the narrative. And think about this: how did all this poisonous stuff get introduced into your food? Same reason, right? They're not giving you the right information. So this is the way they hid, and it wasn't really that difficult if you think about it.
Yeah, no doubt. And very well said. A Nations Bank is now Bank of America. So yeah, they're all connected. I think we're going to get into it a little bit later, but we're talking about the railroad companies of the Payseurs. That's a very interesting story in and of itself, in several reasons. So we'll get to that a little bit later if you want. But you're talking about being born into these families, and that brings us back down to the next post there, 742.
Yep.
The parts that I want to focus on is inner circle, family careers, McLean, Virginia. The age of tech has hurt their ability to hide and control. Majority today were born in to the circle. And with the anonymous researchers that we have, at the hive mind that we have to dig on things, it's pretty hard to hide nowadays with some of these anons. The digging goes deep. So we've done a lot of deep digging, and Liv Avon Sales has been amazing, along with others. So the Payseur 48 families, they're basically of the Virginia companies, the company that they named. It ultimately became the United States of America and politic.
And that would be that would be what you guys out there understand as the corporation. Anyone who's done some little bit of research into the incorporation of America realize that the capital letter U, United States of America, is a corporation, and it is filed, I'm pretty sure, somewhere in the state of Delaware, and that is the corporation that the IRS operates under. And all of a huge amount of your, that's the corporation that your Federal Reserve operates under. It is not of the federal government.
And that's absolutely right. So, going down a little bit more, the Payseur family in the United States, they're the secret descendants of the French monarchy. Daniel Payseur is AKA Crown Prince Louis, who was Queen Marie Antoinette's son. Daniel Payseur, crowned Louis, aka Louis the 17th of France, was smuggled out of France into North Carolina to the United States after his mother was executed. The Payseurs have gone to extreme lengths to corrupt government documents, such as court records. They have hidden their births of so many of their descendants and have covered over with extreme secrecy most of their monetary holdings. Wait, what was that Q part in 742? The age of tech has hurt their ability to hide and control. Interesting. So I'll continue. They have been so powerful that they could hide their wealth and use other satanic families as proxies. If you search hard enough, you can figure it out too. I just wanted to give you guys a hint on what to look for. It started with Daniel Payseur, 1785 to 1860. Then Louis Cass Payseur, or L.C. Payseur, 1850 to 1939. French monarchy living in America. They won't teach you that in the history books.
No, they don't. Now you see, guys, you understand now. You can see this. If you are in the mindset of the mainstream media narrative, this is going to be hard to see. So pull yourself back just a second. Think about this clearly, what we're discussing here. Realize that this is history. This is not conspiracy. This is the history of our nation. This is the history of our freedom. And this is the same group that are out there today that you have collected here to come see us, hang out with us, or gotten into Q or become curious. The whole thing revolves around this. The idea that they could steal every single thing from you and you would never know any the wiser. Imagine the power you would have if you owned all the railroad companies, if you decided where the tracks went, if you decided how to populate the whole continent. There is a lot of evidence that goes back now with some of the more recent Q drops that have come out. This goes back before the Revolutionary War, and they had their plans set on this continent quite a good bit of time, even before Columbus, I believe.
Absolutely. Yeah, this stuff has been going on, obviously. In the book that's on the CIA website, says that it goes back to the bloodlines of Nimrod, but we're going to just stick to these bloodlines that we know today.
So maybe I'm going to scoot down here. I want to maybe read this. We were talking about the springs there in that one piece. And guys, some of this information that we're reading is not information from the Springmeier book. Realize that we're going back, and these these highlighted areas are from books, like real written books that are available if you just sort of know where to look and find the information. But in this one here, it's really interesting that she's got some stuff highlighted. I'm going to read this top paragraph here. In 1808. Nancy Hanks, of the lineage of the McCaden Scottish family, visited some of her family at Lincolnton, North Carolina. Nancy Hawks visited the Springs family, and that is when A.A. Springs impregnated her, and her child, when born, was named Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's Rothschild blood was kept very secret, but he did grow up to be a famous lawyer, a secret leader of the Rosicrucians, and president of the United States. So you do your research out there, and you guys will realize that almost every president that's been elected goes back down the same bloodlines here.
That's right. And let's think about where Lincoln is in Illinois, right? Springfield, Illinois. I mean,
not that far from Chicago right now, or the whole debacle we just had for the last 8 years.
Right. And think of the name Springs. That's who he is. He's a spring.
So I'm gonna breeze through here. I want to read a couple more here, Matrix, of her highlighted stuff. The Rothschilds even named one of their boys after Abraham Lincoln. His name was Lincoln Rothschild. And then down here, and just as with JFK, who also came from a top 13 family, a large-scale conspiracy involving many government officials, including the Secretary of Defense, was put into place to assassinate Lincoln. There are numerous indications that show that the Rothschilds were in part behind the assassination of Lincoln. Some of the men who worked for the Payseurs of the 13 top families were Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, the Vanderbilts, Gifford Pinochet, and John D. Rockefeller. These men were selected to run Payseur companies because they belonged to the satanic elite.
Wait, what'd you say, Shady? They were what? running.
Not owning, running, guys. Catch that. He's exactly right. Not owning. They do not own. Just like think about your boy out there, Mark Zuckerberg, or think about at Jack or Eric Schmidt. Same. These people did not start these companies. Your government started these companies. Google, Facebook, Twitter, all of it. It's all it's all part of your intelligence agencies. Believe it or not, so is Amazon and Monsanto.
Right. Very good. And that goes back to that Q post. Where did the, in all caps, money come from, right? It didn't come from the people running the companies for the Payseurs. It came from the Payseurs. In fact, real quick to note, Payer is to pay in French. So when you go pay your bill, you've got to start thinking, folks. It's right there in front of you to see if you want to see it.
Yeah, and it's a mind, it's a mind thing too. It is hard to see, but once you start to understand that this organization, take away the fluff, take away the all the different stories and all the name calling, most everything that comes up against us as conspiracy researchers or conspiracy analysts is just that they're attempting to distract us or to run us off of to run us off the scent, or more so to prevent other people from being able to gather or bring in or compile the information. And so if you guys out there, if you've been working at this for a couple hundred years before you had the opportunity to seize on the great wealth that was America, and you can obviously see what's happened now. But all these companies are combined. All the media companies are condensed. All the food companies are condensed. They've taken away. I mean, they're literally putting people in jail in California now for drinking raw milk. I mean, so just think about the control that you've by allowing a Federal Reserve to exist, by allowing a central bank to exist, by a school system that doesn't teach us that there shouldn't be any exchange of money other than gold and silver. All those different things were them incrementally chipping away over the years at what would eventually become a new world order, or a one world government structure by which the Payseurs became known and the satanic elite took over planet Earth.
Absolutely. And every time we talk about the Payseurs here on the Chans, on Twitter, within seconds we get attacked. So I think we're over the target with this, until Q proves it, of course. It's just a theory, but it's a pretty darn good one.
So if I work on down through here, we got some more. You guys are seeing some more stuff from the John Kerry and the way that the Heinz fortune married. Remember when Q said, they marry for a reason, and to follow the wives. Well, that's what we've been doing, everyone. We follow the wives, and it's it's quite the spider web.
Yep, absolutely. We look at some of Q's posts too, telling us to follow the bloodlines, trace the family lineage to the bloodlines, follow the wives. The reason why it's follow the wives is in the case of the Payseur family, they left their fortune to the daughters, the three daughters, and then the husbands, Beatty, Poors. You ever heard of Standard and Poor's? I don't know, maybe. All those people end up running the fortune. So the wives are the ones that inherit the fortune. The men run the actual fortune. So that's why Q does that. And I feel a lot of us Anons have not been tracing the bloodlines correctly. Instead of waiting for a new Q post, with those 20 days, I decided to kind of go in and do a deep dive into the bloodlines. And it's amazing where it's taken us.
Yeah, and like I said, I really appreciate being able to have the opportunity to participate with you guys, and you've got an amazing crew over there.
Thank you, man. We're glad to have you, and everybody. Just so everybody knows too, Q said back in February, you are part of the Army. Everybody here is part of the Army. I do read the Twitter comments. I do see that we have really good researchers on Twitter as well. So, I take some of that stuff back to the Chans as well to see what takes and what doesn't. But I want to thank everybody that follows me. And I don't like to call you followers. I like to call you patriots. So thank you all the patriots that are connected to my account. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, they absolutely are. You're 100% right about that. So on down here, you'll see that it says that all of the members of the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, are the companies that are owned by the Payseur family, and not the control of, that they control all the CFR. So the people you're seeing walk around the CFR and that PBS touts and every single other organization touts, all the Council on Foreign Relations, roll your eyeballs. It is literally people who should be ignored. It says, in essence, you could say that the CFR is a private club, also for the heir trustees and manager of Mr. Payseur's company, and they reach around the world. Think about that for a minute. So then we move down, we'll drop down here into this post. This was an early one from December 7th, post number 299. And right at the top, Rothschilds, cult leaders, church, and P.
Right. Yeah. That one. that was another one that really got me too, because if you kind of remember Q's, well, you can see down in 299 the pyramids there. I believe Rock passed off over followers. I think that leads to believe that Rockefeller passed away, if we remember. But going back to that Rothschilds, cult leaders, church, and then P. I believe that's the pyramid. And as Neon Revolt pointed out, if you look at those pyramids, there's really no top, right?
Right.
There's no triangle at the top. So
Yep.
that could actually be the P that we're looking for.
Also, the
top of the
keystone
pyramid.
is where that would be the one of the references. Keystone does refer to the top of the pyramid.
That's right. Find the keystone.
And so also, guys, just to throw this out there real quick, whenever the posts aren't right here in front of me, but the one post where you see the plus 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 and the plus plus, and in the next line under the single plus, realize that the next line under that would be no plus, the top of the pyramid, or P.
That's absolutely right. So that post there that you're looking at, 299, Rothschilds, cult leaders, church P, banks, financial institutions, worldwide WW, government controls people, SA, oil, tech, sex, children, SA controls assigned US/UK politicians, tech companies, primary, Soros, he controls the organizations of the people, creating division / brainwash plus management / operator of slush funds. Personal net worth never reduces. Think DOJ settlements, consumer Iran, viral pats, etc., etc. And keeping in mind with that top part, Rothschilds, cult leaders, church P, we found something that really kind of stood out when we were looking at the Rothschild book, excuse me, the Bloodline book that's on the CIA website. And Shady, if you want to take that.
Yeah, I'm going to read this. I want to read this introduction here to you guys real quick. The Rothschilds, a continuation of articles on the top 13 Illuminati families. Introduction by Fritz Springmeier. The Rothschilds are one of the most well-known of the 13 families. David J. Smith of Portland was asked to prepare an article on the Rothschilds for this newsletter. His article follows this introduction. Satan's selective breeding program has been continuing down through the ages, hiding from the eyes of the public. One of the most powerful Rothschilds bloodlines families in America are the Springs. The Springs were originally the Springsteens when they came to America in the mid-1700s, settled in New York and New Jersey. They later changed their name from Springsteen to Springs to hide their identity. Leroy Springs was hired by L.C. Payseur. Now most Americans have to ask, who is L.C. Payseur? One of the most secret and most powerful families in North America has been the Payseurs. They have been so powerful that they could hide their wealth and power and use other satanic families as proxies. The Payseurs are part of the 13th top Illuminati family. The first Payseur to come to America in the former Crown Prince of France, Daniel, in 1785 to 1860, came over 1805 to the U.S., married Kaisers 1814, had two boys. Jones married Harrietta Smith, and then they had Louis Case. It was Louis Case who hired the Rothschild bloodline of the Springs to run a number of the Payseur companies. Payseurs were one of the original big railroad families, along with Isaac Croom, William Beatty. Isaac Croom's wife was a sister of William Beatty, so the reader can see how all these elite bloodlines intertwine.
Yeah, like a spider web, right?
Absolutely, like a spider web, and they're also, they use the different locations, whether it be Bohemian Grove or wherever it is, the islands that they have, and you guys realize that it's not that hard for them to hide and plan behind your back. You're not seeing these people in your daily lives.
Yes, but they are hidden in plain sight, right?
Exactly.
And
they're still here in history. They're hidden. They're not hidden from history. They're just hidden from the modern ability for the average person to comprehend or understand the scope of it.
That's right, and we're going to go back a little bit later. At Avon Sales with a Z, found that Nixon was hiding the Payseur name in congressional records. So I think that's in this thread too. But I also want to address the P really quick, as P equal Pope Anon says, and the Q team says Pope, all spelled out in kill boxes, and those who back them will be brought to the light. So Liv did some great digging here, and it's about the Rothschilds. After a long money battle, they funded the Vatican. You remember Q talked about the Holy See loan as well, and so basically the Rothschilds funded the Vatican along with many unnamed Parisian bankers. Who do we think those Parisian bankers are, right? So those bankers, and I believe the Rothschilds were the agents for the Payseurs to buy the Vatican.
Boom! You guys hear that? To buy the Vatican. Okay, so we found newspaper articles pointing us right to the idea that the Rothschilds were in this deal to buy the Vatican, and then they were trying to back out of the deal, and then all of a sudden they got it for a little cheaper. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, it's all about the Merovingians as well. They were
Right.
very loyal to the papal things there. So yeah. So it all relates to that. So yeah, so this let me go to the actual thread so I can kind of read it. Liv found a great source, and remember, their ability to hide they're losing that ability. The one post I want to point out is the negotiations they did were all conducted in the name of the Associated Bankers of Paris, but the names of the bankers were not mentioned. Imagine that, huh?
Boy, that's a great way to keep books, huh?
That's right.
So and if you see here, I've kind of scrolled down, and then in his next post, he sort of goes into who really owns the Federal Reserve, who is Payseur Company, the Charleston, Cincinnati, Chicago Railroad Company, parent company, the Federal Reserve, Payseur. This stuff is not hidden from the record, guys, of the stuff that's archived. There's almost everything that was media oriented in America is archived still to this day. It's hidden in places, and people have gone back in, like he was saying that Nixon's trying to go in there and get rid of the name, and whatever the situation is, and the connections, and make it as hard as possible for us to understand that your money that is being printed and is being devalued every single day. Think about it. Look at the progression. You had gold was worth $20 an ounce, everyone. Gold was worth $20 an ounce in the mid 1920s. They confiscated all the gold, they made a Federal Reserve mandate to bring in all of your gold. If you were an American and you owned real gold in 1933 and you did not turn it in, you were a criminal and it would be taken from you. And this $20 an ounce gold value that you had, they bought back in bulk for $10 an ounce. This was 1933. By 1940, gold on the world market had already went to over $40 an ounce, and I think a lot of you out there can understand what the price of gold is today. Will give you a lot better idea of why you have a 20 plus trillion dollar deficit and who you owe the money to.
That's right, man. And if you want to back that up with Q posts, I would suggest Q post 133, 133. Hard to swallow, important to progress. Who are the puppet masters? That's the big one. Focus on the three above, right? They want us to Q team wants us that the triangle has three sides. The eye of province. Follow the bloodlines. What is the keystone? Then Q post 142. What is the Fed? What does the Fed control? Who controls the Fed? Who approved the formation of the Fed? Even talks about the Titanic, right? So everything that he was talking about with the gold happened all around that time. This is all about the Federal Reserve banking system. There are people on there that might have been against it, and they just didn't come home.
Yep, and it was it was really striking to me, on a personal journey. Whenever, because I was following I remember I saw the FBI anon who was posting over there, and I perused the boards intermittently. But you guys are a lot more savvy over there. I don't post very much. I'm afraid of those people, but I love to peruse and stuff. But I remember the FBI anon stuff that came out where he was talking about the Wiener laptop, and then whenever Q started to post. I was so intrigued, but man, whenever he started going into talking about the truth about what happened on the Titanic, I was like, wow, we are in real territory here. This is real information. This is information that I've researched. And then all of a sudden, through all the Anons stuff, we find that one of John Podesta's relatives was actually on the Titanic and survived.
Right. So you should lurk more, right?
Right?
Yeah.
I should lurk more.
Lurk more. I want to basically really point out again that the Federal Reserve was backed by Payseur companies. The Federal Reserve is backed by railroad companies, the Charleston, the Cincinnati, and the Chicago Railroad Company. That is the parent company for the Federal Reserve, which we call the Federal Reserve. It's a central bank. This is where it comes from. We've even got documents that are sourced down below in this post as well. But this is what we're really looking at. This is the game. This is where the money came from. This is how you destroy the most powerful country in the world, by direct attack.
Yeah, the only people who had actually came here from overseas and were allowed the freedom to build up and they had the understand, everyone, for the people out there that want to talk to you about how great socialism is and how great all these other forms of government. People who came here from Europe weren't in Europe allowed to keep what they earned, right? So a lot of people came here and they set up businesses. They worked in the cities. They were able to save. It didn't cost you that much to eat, for crying out loud. You were able to save. You were able to put things away for your grandchildren and pay attention to what was going on. And so that is a whole nother. That's kind of a whole nother world than we're in today. And the lines have been really clearly drawn around those specific facts, and the Federal Reserve stealing everything that we had and putting it into their trust. I mean, I think that we've estimated that if this conglomerate could be somewhere in the high 500 trillion in veritable wealth that is literally off the books, guys.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure that people understand that we are completely pro MAGA. And why I say that is because when we're looking at these Q posts and we're looking at what our president does, this brings us down to the next post here, Shady, right? So is there a battle to control the Pacer holdings? Is this how we put an end to the Fed, or as Q says, restructure it? our president has executive orders blocking property or persons that are doing what? Excuse me. Let me just get to. Let me get to.
Trafficking.
Yep. Crimes against humanity and trafficking. And this is the way that we're going to bring the assets and the property and the money back to the people. The Treasury is tracking this as well. And then on July 24th, we have another one executive order. It's a notice regarding the continuation of the national emergency with respect to transnational criminal organizations. And if we go down to a couple of posts, Shady will cover it in a minute. But back in I believe it was in 1915, around in that time frame, they were worried about the nation's banks back then overstepping their bounds into international areas. So this is a note. This is a continuing executive order for a national emergency in respect to transnational criminal organization. And folks, that's what our Federal Reserve is today.
Yes, and that is the power of this executive order, and that is what has really put the quote unquote deep state on their heels, because there's nothing that they can do about this power that they now have. Think about if you were these families or these holdings. We can literally just go in and be taking the stuff out from underneath them because we know what they've really done. I mean, all you guys out there on YouTube, 75% of you guys that are here know the crimes that we're talking about, and you can, for instance, you can see here in this post talking about, beside the fact that everything is hidden in ownership by railroads and is all leased out to operating companies, I wanted to find the other thread that is binding this powerful group of people together. And I feel that the other missing link is the secret society of Freemason, and a religious order is the other missing thread. All goes back to the Catholic Church. So, they're using the Catholic Church, they're using Washington, D.C., they're using the City of London, these three major centers that are off limits to you. You're not allowed to go. Hey, Matrix, did they ever offer for you to go down in the Vatican and take a look at some of those books?
No, I can't check out a book at that.
They didn't let you check any out?
No, I believe that's occulted knowledge, right? Occulted.
But we're the cult, so we should be able to get in there and check them out now, right?
I don't know about that anymore.
So I'm scrolling down through. I'm just showing you some of these, some of the pictures that are in this. This guy here to the left with his hand in his shirt. This is LC, and then you see the Jekyll Island 8 there on the right. Notice our good friend right here in the two over from the bottom right, Jacob Schiff, and Jacob Schiff is a long lost loving relative of our good Barney Fife friend Adam Schiff.
Yeah, he's quite the character.
Here's a quote from Jacob Schiff. Unless we have a central bank with the adequate control of credit resources, this country is going to undergo the most severe and far-reaching money panic in its history. That seemed to work in reverse there, didn't it?
It sure did. And, we've been warned by many people, within our government. So thank God for this president today exposing all this stuff. Let me tell you that.
I mean, yeah, and that's one thing, you were touching on a second ago that that I just wanted to expound on a little bit. You guys realize if you're someone who's come to join the conversation tonight, welcome, number one. And number two, we as the Q phenomena has moved on, we are supporting President Trump. We are supporting the moves that he's made. This guy, we're not blindly following what he's doing, but we are specifically paying attention to, look at this. We're over a year and a half into this administration, and I don't think that we've had an administration not bomb a foreign country in the first year and a half since Kennedy. So, think about the reality of what's going on. There's a lot of people on Twitter that I'm interacting with that, they think World War III is happening out there. And I'm like, it's not happening. Calm down. Take in your reality as it is. Breathe a little bit and relax and realize that things are not this incomparable amount of racial tension that the news media is trying to constantly project onto you.
Absolutely, Shady. And I want to do another thing too. I want to let people know that the reason why I believe the president is going after the bloodlines, cutting the strings at the top, is recently we had this Seagram's heiress in a sex cult case. She had to pay $100 million bond. Her name is Claire Bronfman. Okay, so she went into court. Family members signed on to pay her whopping $100 million bond so she can stay out of jail.
You
So
guys catch
I mean,
that? $100 million bond. Did you see NBC or any of your other news reporting that? $100 million bond.
right. So her name is Claire Bronfman. And if you understand who the Bronfmans are, they're in the CIA book. That's the Bloodline book up there on the CIA website. So it should be mentioned that some of the prominent Illuminati families also play key roles in the drug trade, such as the Bronfmans, the Cabots, the Shaws, the Bacons, the Perkins, the Morgans, Forbes, Cisneros, and Oppenheimers. Where have we seen such names before? Apparently, there's a movie called or a show called Dope Inc. That people would do well to know and look at that movie book. I haven't looked into it yet, but it's very amazing. But the Bronfmans were drug runners for the Illuminati. Apparently, they also run Canada, which now we know that there's a French monarchy and a British monarchy, kind of tug of war power. It kind of makes sense now that part of Canada is French, part of Canada is English. Didn't we have a New Orleans? Orleans, interesting. That's kind of French too, and we had French people there. So people, it's really starting to make history. The history that we were told look kind of awfully silly when you start putting things together.
Yeah, it looks completely silly, and you know, even to expound on that just for a moment, we have found record going back, guys. I mean, we're finding stuff going back way back. I'm talking like Columbus era times, and even around the early 1600s, where they were talking about splitting up this continent into 48 states, and each of the 48 families were going to have their own state. Think about that concept for just a moment.
Yep, absolutely. So, and again, Q is asking us to keep a record of all the CEOs that are resigning, all the Congress people. I'm kind of having an idea that the battle for the money is happening, which is why some of these executive orders might help us. And Q tells us to keep an eye on Loop Capital. And, I want you guys to help me dig on this, but some of my theories is that Loop Capital, run by a Reynolds, which is part of the bloodline, is taking a lot of the Payseur assets that are, up for grabs per se, and bringing them into Loop Capital. So I'm really starting to question some things that are going on out there. Q is leading us onto some things, and I think we've missed a few things as Anons, but we're always busy, trying to keep up with the Q posts. And I know we had some today, Shady. I know we might be running out of time, so if you guys want to have me back, we can talk some more. Shady, if you want to keep going, let me know. But I just wanted to. I know you said we got till about 1/2 hour, so let me know what you want to do.
Yeah, man, I'm doing really good. It seems like we've moved through this a little bit. I definitely want to catch those couple Q posts. They're very, very relevant. We're gonna catch up with those in a minute and maybe get over to a question or two. And right here on the screen, I have up where you see the plus with the Red October Iron Eagle drop. This was dropped 679 on February 7th. Also, you see February 15th drop with the map provides a key, or continue to build a map. Map provides a key. Key spreads the truth. Truth shines light. Light saves humanity. Future proofs past. Trust the plan. So simple, guys. And for people that are new to Q, understand that the stuff that we have been disseminating is not coming from a person or someone who is a anything that you can tag them with. This is information that is just being put out there. It's a Socratic method of question asking, and these questions become asked. They become the vernacular of our discussion. And as we're asking these questions amongst ourselves and working together to solve what does this person or this group exactly want to lead us to with this. We'll lead down this path with this thing, but I'm telling you, the same exact statement that leads us down this path will lead us down a completely different rabbit hole on another day.
Absolutely. And every time Q posts, it says, um, the old guard, out with the old guard, in with the new guard. There's just so many things. Uh, you Google Rothschilds. There's so many Q posts that relate. This thread could be probably about 1,000 tweets long, if you will.
Yeah, and also, guys, if you're out there and you go through the thread, we're showing it on the Thread Reader app now. But if you're going through the thread, definitely take your time to click on each of the posts and look at some of the commentary below that, because we're posting information into the commentary below, specifically in the thread in the post, and then also there's links that'll take you back to quite a few other places, and literally you can find out a lot of information about the stuff that we're talking about just from this one thread. And now Neon Revolt has added his thread, which was an amazing piece of research. I want to maybe just scroll down on that just a second here. I talked about this a little bit on Friday, but this guy, he put in a tremendous amount of work, and one of the really cool things that I feel like he came up with was this. Let's see, which one was it here? I think it was this one. So if you guys, it's going to be hard for you to see, obviously, on the through the YouTube or whatever, but this is literally a this is some of your ancestors who were trying to trace these people, and what you see here are names of companies at the top, table of interlocking directories, and they're literally here trying to piece together the people who are involved in this, and where these darn families went, and who they married, and who they're related to. And this is some kind of document. Obviously, we've only kind of started to go through this a little bit. Matrixxx was actually able to get some of this super clear for us to maybe start doing some tweets and some more posts about. But you can see how this is laid out. It's got names across the bottom and names up both sides, all leading into the center grid pattern with X's connecting this family to that family. And they were trying to understand and lay it out. This is pre-central bank, pre-Federal Reserve, white hats of long ago, if you will.
Yep, December 18th of 1912. And, you've got some of the companies. You got Chicago, Purification, you've got the banks, you've got a lot of the railroad companies there, believe it or not. We've got a lot of the same cast of characters that we've been talking about today that are in there. You've got H.D. Davidson, you've got Warren, you've got J.P. Morgan, Lloyd. So these are some of the names that they put together back then in 1912. Lamont, Whitehall, Moore, J.P. Morgan, Norton, Allen. So Colgate, interestingly enough. So so a lot of the people that we know that thought owned the companies, for example, Standard Oil wasn't owned by Rockefeller. It was owned by the Payseurs. So just very interesting. Where did the money come from? I think we're figuring it out. I think our president is on the right track with the executive orders. I think we need to make sure we get out and vote and make sure we support our president as well. And I just want to say MAGA. That's what
100%.
We say.
Yes, for sure. I mean, and this guy has, if any you guys out there, you talk about a guy that's taking a hit on the chin for you. Donald Trump is a man who's taking a hit on the chin for you.
Absolutely correct. And I can see that what the POTUS is doing today with the executive orders lines up to a lot of these Q posts, folks. So keep digging. Leave me your information below the threads too. I do read the comments quite often.
Yeah, well, I knew that this was going to be a very large item to cover. I so appreciate you coming on and joining me to I feel like we've not even scratched the surface on this. This goes so deep and so wide, but also I felt like we needed to take a nice, slow, ease-in approach to the basics of where this is coming from, to understand, to try to start connecting our minds to the intelligence agencies are these companies that are protecting the Federal Reserve from you figuring out what they're doing. That is what their job is, and that is their job to form this SCS and to keep people on there and to keep people in places to make sure the right judges are appointed and the right sheriffs are appointed. And in some of these municipalities where for instance, the different stuff going on in Hollywood or LA and stuff, they're making sure that whistleblowers are taken care of, and you need to be extraordinarily careful out there.
Absolutely, man. And again, I really appreciate the hospitality. We did barely scratch the surface. There's so much more. If you'd like to have me back, I'd be glad to come back, maybe where we left off. And obviously, if we get some more information.
I would absolutely like to have you back, and I want to point to everyone to please go check out to go check out the thread of IntheMatrixxx and give him some love over there. Find his YouTube channel. We're going to put this stuff up on this video up on his YouTube as well. And I don't know. You want to hang out with me for just a minute, and I'll read through these last couple Q posts and let you comment if you want.
Sure, man. I appreciate that. These were some good ones today. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna read the ones from today from the top down, even though they seem like they could kind of go either way. I like to have the definitions right up front. And for all the anons out there, this is going to be a very good. This one, 1925, is going to be a very good post for you to use for people who cannot define things or do not understand their government, or maybe they all slept during civics. I'm really not sure. But I'm going to start at the top here. This is August 19, 2018, 1303. Define fascism. Forcible suppression of opposition. Question mark. Define censorship. The institution, system, or practice of censoring. Define narrative. A way of presenting or understanding a situation or series of events that reflects and promotes a particular point of view or set of values. Define projection. An attribution of one's own ideas, feelings, or attitudes to other people or to objects, especially the externalization of blame, guilt, or responsibility as a defense against anxiety. The forming of a plan or scheming. Define psychological projection. A theory in psychology in which the human ego defends itself against unconscious impulses or qualities, both positive and negative, by denying their existence in themselves while attributing them to others. Define narcissist. A person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. Narcissists who think the world revolves around them. Narcissists preening themselves in front of the mirror. Define dogma. A point of view or tenet put forth as authoritative without adequate grounds. Define aggression. Forceful and sometimes overly assertive pursuit of one's aims and interests. Define suppression. Action of suppressing something such as an activity or publication. Bonus round. Narcissists are renowned for using psychological projection to blame other people even when it is entirely apparent that they are the ones in the wrong. Define realism. The quality or fact of representing a person, thing, or situation accurately or in a way that is true to life. Realism. Actions of Antifa, aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative, dogma. Actions of fake news, aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative, dogma. Actions of Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube, and Reddit. Aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative, dogma. Sheep no more, the more you know, Q. Now that right there is an amazing post, Matrix.
Yeah, basically it's talking about what's going on. I mean, that post is true on so many levels. And I think that's what we're doing here is we're actually changing the narrative, and we need to keep up the pressure. I think we're being very successful on Twitter.
Yeah, we are. We're actually penetrating the bubble, if you will, and poking holes in these stories. Like this stuff is just literally, we're poking holes in every single story that they're coming up with, and the only thing that I can hear is racist or conspiracy theorist.
That's right. I mean, that's that's all they got. Again, Q pretty much lays it out in this and the next post, I believe, too.
Yeah, and the next post was just a little bit after, about an hour later, he posted calls, define subversion, the act of subverting, the state of being subverted, especially a systematic attempt to overthrow or undermine a government or political system by persons working secretly from within effect. So this is basically explaining to you guys that all the people that the past administrations, however umpteen of them, are still in the government, in these regulatory committees, in all these different caveats or corners or whatever of government, a lot of them are still in there, and they're subverting the current administration's directives by going against him and doing things that are alternative. That is subversion, everyone. Then he goes on to give actions and the executive order that blocks the persons that we were talking about earlier. And then the United States needs to impose tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuse or engage in corruption, as well as to protect the financial system of the United States from the abuse of these same persons. I therefore determine that serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. National emergency. Then shows the White House Government Action 2018 Amendment, Manual Court Martial U.S. The United States. Now this is January 1, 2019, everyone. So realize that this goes into effect in like 5 months, first of the year. So just kind of see the timeline here, how this is all going to work out. The snowflakes are going to be melting in Christmas. In accordance with Article 33 of the U.S. MJ, as amended by Section 5204 of the MIM or the MGA, the Secretary of Defense in Constitution with the Secretary of Homeland Security will issue non-binding guidance regarding factors of commanders, convening authorities, staff judges, advocates, and judge advocates should take into account when exercising their duties with respect to the disposition of charges and specifications in the interest of justice and discipline under Articles 30 and 34 of the USMJ. That guidance will take into account with appropriate consideration of military requirements the principles contained in office guidance of the Attorney General to attorneys for the federal government with respect to the disposition of the federal criminal cases in accordance with the principle of fair and even-handed administration of federal crime law. Definitely seems like this whole 45,000 indictments is just hoodooey. FBI personnel removal, DOJ personnel removal, CIA personnel removal, state personnel removal, White House personnel removal, House personnel removal, Senate personnel removal, chair, CEO, VP removal. Military budget, largest in our history. Military presence around the president. 45,000 sealed indictments plus. Then a couple of articles here and nothing to see here. Nothing to look at here, is there, Matrix?
Nothing to see here. Move along. And I also saw some things, and I haven't got a chance to look at it, but I believe there's a book called Nothing to See Here, just like there is a book, The More You Know. What was the other one? I can't remember, but
it had something to do. It was one of the something with the light in it that had to do with the Q drop the other day. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But somebody said that there was a book, but hey, I haven't dug on that yet. More tomorrow on my threads for Twitter. We had some Q posts today. I was getting ready for today's show, so I didn't really do too much prep. But these 2 posts right here, it's your cause and effect, man. This is what's happening. It looks like there's some serious stuff going on with the national emergency, with the transnational organizations that we pointed out in our EOs today. But this is the court marshals. There's some big stuff on the pike here, guys. I don't know what you guys are feeling, but I feel something big is about to drop.
Yeah, I do too. Well, I mean, I think that the indications are that this Mueller investigation is just going to like disappear. Like he's just going to quit, and everybody's going to be sitting around going, "Oh, what happened?"
Right? Or he's going to say, "Hey, I've been actually going after the bloodlines with Trump." So who knows, man? We're watching a movie, a very well scripted movie. We got front row seats. Get your popcorn. Get
your popcorn, everyone. That is 100% on target. Well, I really, man, what a great time, dude. It just flew right by. I appreciate your insight and you coming in here and just really getting into it and explaining to people. Number one, it's great to know that you're not a Russian bot, bro.
Thank you very much. Beep boop bop boop beep boop boop.
There's so many people. You guys have no idea how many people that are attacking him and saying that he's a Russian bot, or anybody that quotes anything from him. We're all Russian bots, and so we're trying to learn better English and better punctuation, aren't we?
Yes, we're doing very well, I think, comrade. Shady.
Nice. So we've got some people still in here, and I wanted to say real quick to all the guys that help you out, man. What a great response that we're getting in this, and what a great teams. The teams that we've put up have been just amazing. A couple people you guys need to check out is some of our moderators out there at Crop Duster Anon on Twitter, Avon Sales on Twitter, at Red Dog, at Beluga, at Cookie Crumbs with the KK. She's a sweetie. Thank you so much for helping us. And Neon Revolt too. That article was great. And
thank you, Neon, for that. Yes.
Yeah, and man, you're welcome here anytime to come in and pop in. And we were going to get to some questions, but we've run a little bit late here. But I think that everyone was really excited to interact with you a little bit. And let's play us a little song here at the end, and then we can just chat with people for a minute. How's that sound?
Yeah, man. I hope it's a song by one of my favorite Patriots, Blue Eyes, maybe.
Yeah, let's do it, guys. Thanks so much for everybody being out there on YouTube and supporting me and really giving me some extremely encouraging words. And I'm getting great feedback. I'm humbled and I'm honored, and I appreciate you spending your time with us. And I appreciate the energy and the effort that you put in to helping others see, and the attacks that you're going to take from people. But don't, put on your armor, stand in your truth. Don't lead with the crazy stuff. You're not trying to convince someone who's trying to understand what's going on with Mueller about the Payseurs. So realize you're at a different level in here. We're sort of talking about the gross underbelly of this whole system. But thanks again so much, Matrix.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to my Patriots that are attached to my account. I don't want to call you guys followers. I see like Jay Veg out there, Leslie Lewis, Joy, wow, Crop Duster, of course, man, JoJo. JoJo's amazing. There's so many awesome Patriots. I see Trumpy Girl out there. I see obviously Lori there. There she is. Corticon was out here. So we just have a really good group of people. We are the Q Army. We are Patriots United. Shady, man, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate you. You're doing an amazing job. I really hope that you just continue the path that you're on, stay the course, keep the armor on, and I hope to see you reap major success with getting the word out, man. Red pills for all.
Red pills for all, 100%, man. And we're gonna be together, and we're gonna continue here on the Truth for Freedom channel to be expanding what the content that we're bringing you. It's not going to be only about Q related stuff, but just to let you guys realize, man, this is huge. This is leading to our future. This is leading to your children's future, and we're not being led down the wrong path, and we are diligent, and we're strong, and we're smart. And thanks to everyone out there for all your insights, tips, and just pure love. I just feel pure love from all of you guys. All right, well, I'm gonna play this, and then we'll chat around here for a couple of minutes.
The Great Awakening, the call to man, the hidden story, the master plan. We are all human, we have a voice. We are blessed and burdened with a choice. With a choice. Don't you forget, with open arms, we are waiting. Don't you forget, with open arms, 'cause where we go on, we go on. When one rises up, we all stand tall. 'Cause where we go on, we go on. changing tides. We stand for freedom, for the waking minds. We are all human, we have a voice. We are blessed and burdened with a choice. With a choice. Don't you forget, with open arms, we are waiting. Don't you forget, with open arms, where we go on, we go on. One rises up, we all stand tall. 'Cause where we go on, no, we go on. Together we're unstoppable. 'Cause where we go on, we go on. One rises up, we all stand tall. 'Cause where we go on, no, we go on. Together we're unstoppable. 'Cause where we go on, we go on. Together we're unstoppable.
Thank you, everyone who joined me tonight. Please feel free to post in the comments below. Do not hesitate to get the discussion going back and forth. Thank you, IntheMatrixxx. What an amazing segment that was. I really, really appreciate you coming here and sharing your love with all of us, man. I get the privilege of hanging out with you and talking to you, but you have no idea how great it is to have your voice and bring a face or a voice to that message on your Twitter. Just keep it up. You keep hammering them. To everyone else out there, we are going to spread the notion that there is a clear line between truth and the lie, and that the global elite in America will soon be defeated. We are the elite. You are the super elite. Remember that. If someone asks a question, help them out. Give them an easy answer. We are Anon. Thank you to all the mods. Thank you to Matrix. Thank you to Avon Sales. Thank you to Crop Duster, Anon, Cookie Crumbs, Red Dog. You guys are... I don't know if I could do it without you. Go to this thread with what we just presented tonight. Come over to my thread on, or to my Twitter page and check out some of the different stuff that we're working on. We are working in tandem. We are working for the future. We are working for peace, and we are working for freedom. We're going to bring freedom. Please get out there and support other voices who are positive towards Q, Lionel Media, Praying Medic, Neon Revolt, Jordan Sather, Truth Seekers everywhere. Go check out Edge of Wonder. Just did a couple amazing videos on QAnon. Very straightforward guys sitting there telling you like it is and being very neutral and in my opinion, extremely knowledgeable about the different in-depth and aspects of it. Everyone, thank you for joining me here on the Q Lounge Live, and I will see you Friday night. Good night.